Namaste. Welcome to the beginning of another live Sangha. I'm grateful to be here today. I hope you are feeling as well as you can be in this moment. And if you're not feeling like that's true for you, that's okay too. Know that this too shall pass. And I hope you find peace and relaxation here. We are just starting off our Sangha, and so our first guests are just arriving now. Welcome. I seem to be shedding a lot of hair. I've got a lot of it to shed. Hello, dear Hee. Welcome. I'm doing well, thank you. I had a challenging day trying to get my internet connected, but it is now connected. As you can tell, I wouldn't be live otherwise. Namaste, dear Melissa, Talita, dear Gadget. Hello, dear Tim, and Snuffleupagus. Radhe, Radhe. How are you? Love to know what kind of space to hold for the peeps in the world right now. In the northern hemisphere, it's getting colder as we venture deeper into winter. But I hope the warmth of this space warms you up and that you get to experience all the love we have to share here. If you want to share any reflections that you've had since last time being here, I would love to be able to learn from you too. Namaskaram, dear Uragnahildur. Thank you. Greetings, dear Magdalene. Hello, Darrow. Start off our Shravana today, the first part of our Sangha, with a prayer. Shanti mantra from the Taittiriya Upanishad, as well as the Katha Upanishad, I believe. See how much I remember without looking at it. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryang Garva Vahai Tejasvina Vadhitamastu Ma Vidvisha Vahai. Yes. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, which of course in English means Om. May the Divine protect us both together. May the Divine nourish us both together. May our study be vigorous and effective, and may we not mutually dispute or hate any. Om, may there be peace in us. May there be peace in our environment, and may there be peace in the forces that act on us. So it's my intention for us to come together as fellow students of life to uplift each other, relate in one another's experiences, and share positive sentiments. I hope for all of us to be rooted in our own traditions of choice. May we all find peace within ourselves. Take a moment to breathe. Breath is good. I hope to be an appropriate host for today, and if there's any way in which I can make this space more inclusive, please hold me accountable to that. Welcome, dear Alicia. I'm your comfort stream. Second, of course, to the endless stream of comfort that comes from the Divine all around us. Saraswati is her name. Om Namah Kalim Ambita Me Shhurin Nadita Me Hurin Devita Me Aim Saraswatyai Swaha. And hello, dear Alyssa. Thank you, I am doing well. How are you? Welcome, dear Daily Inspiration. I'm glad you like Santa Yam. Yamta. Which is also what my name would be if I was a hamster. Yamta. I'm happy you like the background music, dear Taro. It's nice and cozy, isn't it? Grateful to include you all in my journey in this moment. Welcome, dear Miranda from Wyoming. Hello. That's what that's what my mom says when I'm chanting Om too long. In the middle of the night, she opens my door. Why Oming? Why Oming at this hour? Yamzinho. I like that. That's cute. Thank you, dear Miranda, for your heart, mate. Om Kham Jahnavyai Namah. Happy holidays, dear Tamia. Oh, I like your Prem Marjara. Love cat. Isn't that right? Name for cat is Marjara? Something like that. Dear Miranda, thank you for your rose. In addition, Hare Krishna. And dear Talita, thank you for your heart, mate. Om Dum Durgayai Namah. It's like cat noises but for human, Taro. Exactly. I'm sure you could turn it into a meow. Meow. Taro, you share. You sat at the ground and watched a cat for 30 minutes today. I love that. I love moments where you're just observing. Just on the ground, watching. Greetings, dear Perry. Salutations, Namo Namaha. Thank you, Isabella, for your tiny. Yippee! Merry Christmas. That's what the tiny says to you. I'm channeling, of course. Greetings, dear Isabella. You share a random stranger brought you a menorah today because yours broke. So thoughtful. I love that. Beautiful. Is it still part of the days of Hanukkah? If so, how many candles are lit on the menorah today? Dear Boogie Noogin, you sure you could watch all animals for 30 minutes, 30 days, weeks, anything. Me too. The older I get, the more I understand old people who just sit on benches and watch the wildlife. Just look at the birds. I'm definitely going to be one of those people. In fact, I already am. Sorry, there's a hair in my mouth. The perks of having long hair. It is the second day of Hanukkah. Well, thank you for letting me know, dear Isabella. Hello, dear Stevie G. Yes. Thank you for stopping by and saying hello. Dear Booganugan, you share the dogs teach humans unconditional love without having to utter a word. It goes to show how love is beyond our words. It's more than just what we say, and dogs prove it so. Hello, dear Jody. Maybe it's a Yamdella effect. that I have a mustache now. Have I always had one? Maybe we should look at my baby photos, see if we had a mustache. Any mustache? Nope. Must be new. Thank you. But I am doing well, dear Stevie G. Thank you for asking. And I do echo your question back to all of you. How is the Sangha today? I'm happy you appreciate my baby photo. Alright, I'd like to start off our Shravana and end it with a reading from our book Moksha. If you would like to listen with me. We left on a bit of a cliffhanger. We do have a show and tell today, but because of the length of the show and tell and my late starting time, I'm moving it to the end as a supplement for our meditation during the Nididhyāsana. Dear Ben, you are welcome to ask something indeed. We'll have a whole section for Q&A after the Shravana section, so I could go into more depth then after my reading in the Mania section. What does Christmas mean to me? Christmas is a time of bringing out our inner light. Just after the solstice, when we've reached the darkest of the days in the northern hemisphere, the days start getting brighter again, and we honor that by bringing out our own inner light in the form of sharing our presence, our love with friends and family. And of course, for Christians, it means celebrating the arrival of the divine, another metaphor for light entering into our lives. You missed the baby photo, dear Ragnhildr. Oh, you'll have to look back at the recording. We can certainly dive into the symbolism of Christmas later, but I would love to continue where we left off in our book. Let me turn down the background music just a little bit. We left off with our protagonist being kidnapped by some part of this evil and corrupt organization called Gerhard Industries, which he has certainly had a relationship with. An interesting one, at least. Let's see how the story unfolds from there. May this reading relax your mind and awaken your heart. Gerhard and Jonas, his son and brother of the late husband of our protagonist, both evil individuals, were sprawled into two stuffed armchairs in Mother Gabriel's office, the office of the Covenant. No, not the Covenant, but the Convent of nuns in which our protagonist had previously been serving. She was nowhere to be seen, nor were any of the nuns. Gerhard motioned me to a straight-backed wooden chair. I faced the two of them, a coffee table covered with a dainty lace tablecloth between us. I sat down Gerhard began to speak, but I became distracted by my map of the camp, still in place on the cork notice board directly in front of me. A few red pushpins marked random spots. I turned to Gerhard, a squishy, bulky, ambiguous creature wallowing in mire. "Got this place for a song," he was saying, waving a tentacle. The Vatican is a tough negotiator, but they were not so keen to keep this place. They have many other opportunities, and I need it for my operations, although I did not reveal this to their attorneys, of course. To them, I was a philanthropist. But you, a tentacle was extended. You thought you could hide, disappear. A gassy wheeze issued from an opening in the creature, exposing a rosy, fleshy interior. There's some strong language that I'm just going to paraphrase instead. "You filthy old, stupid female dog. You dare to challenge me," to keep it PG-13. "Where is Mother Gabriel?" I found my voice. "She's packed off somewhere. Her so-called nuns are back to the crap holes they came from." I had led Gerhard to this place with my meddling, my self-important agency. I had single-handedly and carelessly destroyed the convent, when she had blackmailed the industry before. What do they know about being Christians? Jonas smirked. I turned to take him in. He was tanned, coiffed, and clad in expensive leisure wear, as if back from a sailing argosy around the Greek Isles. How did he break out of the Kathmandu jail where people like him were put to death? Jonas grinned, exposing a row of perfectly capped white teeth. "Surprised to see me, huh?" "A roll of banknotes. That's it. Treated me like a king. Sent their children to keep me company." He leaned forward, tapped a finger on the coffee table. "We have the location of the old lady. We can put her out like this." He made a swishing sound and enacted a dousing of a flame. "Anytime," he added. "But what we want is your boyfriend. That coward is hiding out in some mountain. When we find him, we will nuke him and his mountain. He won't know what hit him before it's too late." While he was speaking, I acquired an elephant's head. My almond-shaped eyes, lined with long, thick, luxurious lashes, closed and opened in slow motion. I became gentle and wise. A servant in an ill-fitting blue and gold uniform, the clinic's colors, came in with a fine decorative porcelain platter piled high with petite fours that must have been flown in from Paris that very day. A pot of tea and translucent porcelain quarter plates, cups and saucers were set down, and the servant poured milky tea into 3 cups. 2 men had helped themselves to the cakes, but I had to demur. I would have enjoyed 6 plates of these delicacies and the whole pot of tea, but I was not quite used to my magnificent trunk, and was afraid that I might knock teapots, cups, saucers, cakes, and the 2 of them to the floor with the slightest movement. "This so-called refugee camp full of losers," one of them was saying. "They are disease, parasites draining the economy." I rose, floated out the door, down the steps, past the assassin chauffeur who fluttered his arms to get me to stop. I floated through the convent gates, crossed the street majestically to the blasting of horns, and sauntered into the camp. Immediately my 3 nostrils became filled with a heavy stench that like a thick yellow fog, unnoticed by the bustling crowds dashing about. I flapped my large ears to keep cool. At an outdoor terrace cafe, taken up with babbling creatures, I ordered a chai. When raucous laughter issued from a table in the corner, I turned my long-lashed almond eyes toward it. A copy of my map of the camp was spread across it, like a tablecloth, and one stubby finger pointed to some feature which gave rise to more laughter. "No problem, Yar," I heard one of them say in their English. At this, my elephant head disappeared, and my mind, the planner, the thinker, the warrior, took over. They were Gerhard's men. He had recruited locals. He had an interest in the camp. But for what purpose? I recalled the red pushpins. What did they signify? "The convent has closed its doors," I said to my Sanskrit teacher, Miss Nandi. I did not mention the role I had played in bringing this about, or how I had misjudged Gerhard entirely. Those pathetic videos had never been a threat. Jonas had not been punished. He had been rewarded. They had been toying with me, playing a cat and mouse game, and I had been an easy target. Gullible, inept, not in their league. I was a joke. "That may be so," Miss Nandi said, "but Sri Krishna Clinic is there." Why? I wondered. Gerhard never took a decision without the expectation of a healthy return. Why would he support the clinic and name it after a Hindu god? Padma and her inclination for good works must have convinced him that naming the clinic after Sri Krishna and not his son Rory was a much better public relations ploy. I let the matter drop. I was alone, unprotected, and forgotten. I could not bring Mother Gabriel and the nuns back. I could not warn Sid. I was powerless. There was nothing I could do. I was nothing. And so ends the chapter, but not quite our reading, as the story has many layers to it. Gerhard is secretly an incarnation of an asura, a demonic being, just like how our protagonist is secretly an incarnation of a divine being, though she has yet to realize it. Here is the layer of the story taking place at the demonic. The two demons stared after the American as she made her way past the chauffeur and across the road to the camp, blissfully unaware of the buses, cars, and miscellaneous vehicles that screeched to a halt. "She on something?" Jonas asked. "Seems spacey." "She's neutralized. I needed to see for myself. She's indulging in the pleasure of her own ego, feeling sorry for herself. She will not pose a problem for us. Her self-hatred is deep." "We should kill her. This is our chance." Gerhard made a harsh sound. "Killing her will cause too much disruption. We move forward. Get that plan built and operational." "Me?" Jonas gasped. "You had that perfect opportunity on the mountain, and you failed." "I could have taken him, but he had a gun. He used it. Luckily, he's a poor shot," Jonas said. "You failed. You stay behind and finish this." "And him? What can he do without her?" The two demons, like military generals, engaged in the pleasurable exercise of planning a campaign, went over the sequence of the terrors they were about to unleash. Alright, more rising action. We will pause our reading there for now, but thank you for listening. I look forward to see how this continues to unfold. Namaste. That will conclude our Shravana section of our Sangha too. Then we can turn to Manana, dedicated to Q&A. Those are my sound effects. So that was not exactly a happy segment in our story, but that's okay. There doesn't always have to be joy. Stories do require some problems, some challenges. What would they be without something to solve, something to work through, something to rise out of? Welcome everyone that joined while we were reading. And thank you, dear Demili, for the rose, the heart me, and the butterfly for you sent. Om Ganganapataye Namah. Namaskaram, dear Miyananda. Good morning, dear Mirna. How did you sleep? And did you have any dreams? Even in challenging times, we still grow. In fact, especially in challenging times, that challenge serves as the resistance for us to push against and expand into. Just like how, when a seed is still in the soil and it doesn't know which way is up, the pull against gravity, it resists and finds its way to sprout. Same dreams, dear Mirna. I also open the floor to anyone if you want to share your dreams too. Besides Mirna, I would love to hear them. But in this space now, we can turn our attention to anything in our hearts and minds. And if there's anything I can attend to, it would be my honor. You have my full attention. Hello, dear Kyoto. Welcome. Thank you for your likes. Dear Talita, you share you had a dream about training your cats. That's difficult. Cats are very untrainable, unless they want to be. But it is possible. Oh, it didn't work, dear Mirna. You were trying to share your dreams. I'm sorry. Maybe you can rephrase them. Hello, dear Jenny. I have had a good day, thank you. You ask for my thoughts on scorpions. Ah, what interesting creatures. They're so unique. I don't think I've ever seen one in real life before. I don't know if we have any scorpions in Canada. So my experience is just limited to having seen pictures of them and knowing about them, and also battling them in video games. They make for a great fantasy enemy if you scale them up really big. And thank you, dear Demili, for the hand hearts you sent. Here's some for you. Om Raya. Dear Tarot, you share you had a dream about me and a house that traveled time. Oh, a time-traveling house. I like that. I wonder what it could mean. House can be a home. And if you have a home that you truly feel safe in, and time may pass you by, you could spend forever there. Dear Dean, you ask, if Christmas is about astrology in a way, does Australia celebrate it at the wrong time of the year? Good question. Of course, when we have our winter solstice, they're having their summer solstice. The reason we have seasons is because the Earth is not perfectly in line with the perpendicular to the orbital plane. As such, summer is when your part of the Earth tilts towards the sun. Winter is when your part of the Earth tilts away from the sun. Of course, Christmas is the Mass of Christ, where we celebrate the birth of divinity in the Christian tradition. And that has been standard for thousands of years, I'm sure. However, some people believe that Christ's birthday is in spring. And I think this also makes sense. There's an argument to be made for the symbolism of coming out in spring. This is when you do biblical scholarship and you keep track of all the dates of everything and what the apostles are saying, that it seems to make more sense, literally, if you go by what was happening with the crops and the shepherds. It seems like it was spring. But does it really matter what day we celebrate? As long as we pick a day and we go with it, then that's the true date. That's where the meaning is found. But yes, if you want to celebrate the winter solstice, then you're going to have to wait 6 months in Australia. But you can still celebrate Christmas for other reasons. There's so many different amalgamations of different traditions in Christmas. So even if you don't celebrate all the reasons, you can certainly celebrate some of the reasons. There's a little bit there for everyone. Dear Annika, you ask an interesting question. What color do I feel most connected to? And this is a question for everyone. I like that. At the moment, I'm feeling a nice red, maybe burgundy. But it definitely changes. I love all the colors. We wouldn't be able to make music without all the notes coming together. Like asking, what note do you feel most connected to? A, B, C, D, E, F, G? Well, try to make a song just out of one note. You can make a rhythm, but you can't make a song. You need a melody. So too, I love all the colors. Hello, dear Matt. Nice to see you again. How about now, dear Sky Guardian? Now it's a new moment. Is it? Or is it the same moment? It's just that some things within that moment have changed. If the moment is Brahman, can Brahman ever change? Only what's on the surface of that Brahman, all of the form, can change, but it does not change in essence. In essence, it is still the same. Dear Matt, you wonder how my Christmas was. It was lovely. Thank you for asking. How was yours? Dear Myrna, you share you're feeling purple at the moment. Darrow, you share you used to hate blue. How can you hate a color? Love all colors. They love you. You love purple, dear Annika. It's a good color, indeed. Feelings are weird. Well, blue is the most common favorite color amongst people. Perhaps you wanted to feel unique, and you didn't want to be grouped in with the majority. You paint with blue a lot. Lots of blue things to paint. Blue skies, blue waters, blue flowers, blue eyes. You think it's because you don't have blue eyes? So you hate what you don't have? Or you did, at least. Because you wanted them? But the beautiful thing about not having blue eyes is then you get to look at them in other people's. If you have blue eyes, you'd never be able to see them unless you were looking in a mirror or a photo. You get the gift of looking at people who do have blue eyes. But you love your eyes now. I'm happy to hear that. Dear Annika, you share your profile has a blue background. It's a painting you did. It was very small on my screen, but if I go really close, I can't make out what it is, but I can see the blue. Is it a bee? Is it a bee sitting on a blade of grass? That's my guess. Imagine I'm completely wrong and it's like a painting of the subway or something. The bee is smoking. It is a bee, okay. I'm impressed I got that. That's funny. Yeah, when you've had a long day pollinating. So funny to imagine. We're the only species that smoke cigarettes, aren't we? Actually, I've seen some monkeys, if you give them a cigarette. They can be addicted to it, as well as alcohol. Don't give monkeys cigarettes and alcohol, please. If you were planning on it for whatever reason. Hello, dear Hannon. Dear Taro, you're wondering, what's my favorite insect? I really love dragonflies. They're so beautiful. Butterflies as well. I love bees, speaking of which. But whatever insect is in my field of view at the moment, it becomes my favorite. If I'm looking at a bee, bee is my favorite. If I'm looking at a dragonfly, dragonfly is my favorite. If I'm looking at a butterfly, butterfly is my favorite. If I'm looking at you, then you're my favorite. Favorite is whatever I see. Even a mosquito. If I'm looking at a mosquito is my favorite. But that doesn't mean my favorite things can't drive me crazy sometimes. Sometimes our favorite things are what drives us the most crazy. Dear Henan, you ask, what have I eaten today? Well, thank you for asking. Good motherly question. I have had a few nuts. I've had some peanuts, and I've had some chestnuts. Perfect for Christmas. Chestnuts roasting over an open fire. I actually have a huge bowl of chestnuts. These are horse chestnuts. You can't eat them. I think they're also called poison chestnuts, so you really don't want to eat them. I used to decorate them. But these ones are edible. To me, they look like little cat brains. Meow. Is it chocolate? Asks Weird Al. No, it's a chestnut. Dear Taro, you share. Once an old man said that as a firefly you brought light where the sun couldn't, and you think I do the same. That's beautiful. I am touched, thank you. You got chestnuts from your grocer, but they were rotten, dear Weird Al. Oh, yeah, they can go bad really quickly, like because they're so moist. Well, here, I'll give you one. Ready? Just take it out of the screen. See if I still know my magic. My sleight of hand. Probably pretty rusty. You can't really see in the frame. Anyway. Dear Hen and you share, you also ate nuts today. You've been fasting these Christmas days. Oh, for any particular reason? Dear Aaron, you share, you order groceries online and several items were expired. Oh, jeez. Yes, I suppose that is the problem with ordering food online. That you're not able to look at it before you buy it. Or if you are, it's a photo from who knows how long ago and it was still fresh. It's like getting catfished by by fruit and vegetables. You don't look like what you look like in the picture. You don't look like your profile picture. You're all moldy. Oh yeah, no, I was wearing makeup that day. Welcome, dear Crossfires. Now I do have a question of the day for you all if you're interested in exploring it together. Hannah, you share you didn't have food, but you took it as a chance to fast and be more connected to yourself. My goodness. Well, I commend you for finding a lesson in that and using it as an opportunity. Of course, the best fasts are the ones that are voluntary, because it's the choice that we could be eating but we don't that is the most rewarding. But dear, if you're running out of food, please message me and I can send you some money for some food, or we can figure something out. I know most people have a hard time taking something like that, but I want to make sure that all my Sangis are taken care of. Dear Rav, you had asked how to clear a difficult exam. Well, you study as best as you can. And you leave the rest in the hands of the divine. What matters most is that we try our best. And if we can't, that's okay. If we can't pass, it doesn't say necessarily anything bad about us. Sometimes the way that the exam gets graded is different than how we expect or what we practiced for. And sometimes the examiner has a bad day. All of those things that are out of our control, we can leave that to the universe, to the divine. But everything within our control, we do our best at. We study, we do practice problems, maybe flashcards, things like that. And pray. Seriously. What about luck? Well, I wish you good luck. We can do good unto others. Build up our positive karma bank. I think you were asking about your wife, right? Being able to pass an exam for the country. Dear Annika, you share you just got a job in a very stressful kitchen. Are there any non-stressful kitchens? How do you ground yourself when being yelled at? Well, if it's a kitchen, then the yelling isn't personal. It's just a part of how fast kitchens work. It's important to separate the reason that you're yelling at you from maybe reasons that you've been yelled at in the past. Have you been experiencing trauma from maybe being yelled at when you were younger? If that's the case, then it's good to get some help with that. Therapy, counseling. Reprogram ourselves to understand that someone raising their voice is not a sign that we are somehow any less than what we should be, or that we are somehow wrong for being ourselves in any way. You were berated for something that you weren't trained on. Well, that's not your fault. Mm-hmm. It's also the nature of kitchens for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't choose the rules for why kitchens are basically just people always yelling at each other. The point is, it's not you. That anyone in your position would also get yelled at. It's not personal. It's just a part of being a member of a kitchen. Mm-hmm. So it's not a personal judgment in that case. It's the language of cooks and chefs and dishwashers for whatever reason. That's how they speak. You gotta know, it's a language difference. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just, you gotta surrender to it. Like if it was Gordon Ramsay, you go, yes, chef. Yes, chef. Mm-hmm. And you have to kind of enjoy it a little bit. Of course, if it does get personal, then please set your boundaries and find a job that is better suited for you. But as long as it's within what's expected for kitchens all around the world, then imagine that you're the world's best servant, and you do everything that it's asked. And we have a funny relationship with that concept in the West, but actually it can be really blissful to just kind of be submissive in contexts outside of some of the more taboo concepts. Something that I realized in customer service is that if you really believe the customer is always right, and you just kind of delete your own ego for the moment, then it almost becomes enjoyable. I remember at the moment that happened for me, that I was working at a deli, and in the deli, this lady was yelling at me for something that didn't even make sense. Like, I have absolutely no idea what she wanted. And I was so ready to just quit back and yell back at her. But then I just surrendered. And then I just went like royal servant mode. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. As you wish. Your wish is my command. And I followed all her instructions. I picked out all of the olives one by one out of the salad that was already mixed. And I started to even like it. I was imagining that this was some majesty before me, and I was the servant. It's something that switches in your brain when you feel like you're serving someone important. You actually begin to enjoy the submission. Mind you, there's always room for personal boundaries and making sure that you protect yourself, and there's a thin line to walk there. But if it's just business, try to surrender. Imagine that you're serving the divine, and the divine is just giving you a challenge. Yeah, think of it like the army. Oh, good. I'm glad I remembered correctly, dear Rav. I wish you well. I pray for your wife's success. Much love to you, Hanan. Dear Weird Al, pardon me, you're wondering if I'm dating anyone. Just wondering my thoughts and experience on divine union. Well, you put it best. I hope the union with the divine. I see the divine as my significant other. And don't feel bad because the divine is a part of you. which means that there's a significant other within everyone for me, just no one exclusive. I am in love with that spirit that's within you, that's within everyone, all beings. That has stolen my heart. Dear G, welcome. I thought you might be asleep by now. You share you've worked as a sous back at the house of a vegan restaurant, and it was not the case. That makes sense. Vegans don't have the energy to yell. And they're also engaged in loving kindness. Hello, dear Elizabeth. Dear Hannon, you share your ex-coworkers were a bit toxic in the kitchen, but it was also funny and entertaining. Yeah, kitchens are not exactly the place I would go for self-love, unless it's maybe one of those vegan kitchens. Dear Miles, you share even though you have a love. I just put the word love in that sentence, but there isn't a word. You share even though you have the job you want and enjoy, your executive function still betrays you and you lose focus. Yeah. Executive function is a tricky thing. I see it as a call from your higher self to withdraw from the world. At the level of the world, you might enjoy this job, gives you all the perks you need, but is it spiritually fulfilling? If it's not spiritually fulfilling, then naturally someone as spiritual as yourself will withdraw from times, and you'll just kind of create some space between you and the work to reconnect with your values. Thank you, dear Tarot, for your heartmate. Om Gham Ganapataye Namah. Well, that's one thing, dear Tarot. If you learn how to cook another thing, then you'll know how to cook two things. And then if you learn one more thing, you'll learn how to cook three things. Hello, dear dude called Jorge. Salutations from Chile. Have I ever had an out-of-body experience or lucid dream? We are always having an out-of-body experience because we've never been in the body. Just like you're watching on your phone, probably. Are you having an out-of-phone experience? Of course. The phone is just one part of your experience. But if you're really focused on your phone, maybe if you've been scrolling for hours, then maybe the outside world begins to fade and it consumes you. And it seems like all that exists is just what's in the phone. And the people outside can't get your attention. They have to go, hey, hello. And then, whoosh. It's just like that with our body. Our body is just one part of our experience. If you zoom out, you realize you never were in it this whole time. And just the same way, perhaps the divine has to go, hey, hello, Remember, there's a world happening outside of your body, beyond the body. And you go, and you go, oh yeah. I am not in the body is in me. But lucid dreams, absolutely. In fact, I'm not sure the last time I dreamt that wasn't lucid. Dear Rav, you share, sometimes it looks like that person who do bad deeds is more accepted by society and is happy also. It does seem like that, I agree. And in our society it is very socially acceptable to be individualistic and not engage in selfless ways of living just for the pursuit of personal gain. But don't let them fool you. It is impossible to be happy when you just are serving yourself and no one else, because your true self includes everybody else, and you can't feel fulfilled if you're not attending to the whole of who you are. And the whole of who you are includes everyone. Good deeds are the way of serving the higher self. True happiness is found there. Through personal gain, we might get temporary pleasure, but it always comes to pass. But when serving the whole, we gain long-term contentment, satisfaction within ourselves. Dear Ari, you ask if I have any thoughts about finding yourself again and not fearing being seen. You cannot find yourself, and you cannot be seen. You are that which sees all but cannot be seen, hears all but cannot be heard, knows all but cannot be known. If you try to find your true self, you will never find it, because the true self is the one that searches, not the one that is found. You are a subject of life, and not at all an object. Who watches the watcher? But your vulnerability is your greatest strength. If you allow yourself to be vulnerable, then you show others that this is a world worth being open to. Like attracts like in this way. Free yourself of the fear of judgment and know that there's nothing about you that can be judged. You are the limitless. You are invisible. You are unattached and free. You are the consciousness, spirit, soul, awareness. Not this body, not this mind. Body and mind are tools that you deserve to take care of. What one person thinks of your body or mind says nothing about you, only about the idea of you they have gathered from themselves, trying to fit you into their worldview, but you do not fit because you are infinite. And if their worldview is limited, then how could they ever come to realize you? Thank you, dear Tarot, for the heart me you had sent. Sum Suryaya Namah. And dear Miles, thank you for your rosa. Om Brahm Bhairvaya Namo Namah. Dear Demili, thank you for your sunglasses. Om Kring Kali Kaye Namah. And Isabella, thank you for your finger heart. Radhe Radhe. Dear Crossfires, you share the deli you worked at a long time ago. A lady showed you a cucumber and said something that scared you for life. I don't know if I want to know either, dear Crossfires. Oh, jeez. Dear Mirna, do I think a vegan diet would make a weak body resistance or weak body muscle mass? If so, vegans should not live in war zones. Maybe we can put it like this. They should not be having war zones where people want to live and be vegan. Is it the vegan's fault for being in a war zone? They don't get to choose to be in a war zone. Now onto your question. It is definitely more difficult to ensure that your nutritional needs are being met as a vegan. And that's the exact same way. It's in the exact same sense that it will be a lot more challenging to pay for your own groceries if someone isn't working for you. Right? It's common sense. If someone is working for you, then it's very easy to get your groceries paid for. But if you have to survive on your own, it'll be more challenging to pay for your own groceries. The analogy here is that an animal is already attending to its nutrition. And mind you, this is not an argument for eating animals. It's actually an argument for taking accountability for oneself. That an animal is not eating junk food. An animal knows, it trusts its own body what to eat. And so when we eat that, it's already been configured, the nutrition ratio for an animal. There's other nuances too, like eating red meat is a source of cancer and things like that. But if you're a vegan, you have the responsibility yourself. You have to take accountability for your nutrition. You can't rely on an animal to do that for you. So if you're not as connected to your body as an animal, then yeah, you've got a learning journey ahead of you to be able to take care of your needs and listen to your body and what kind of plans to eat and in what ratio, for example. That's difficult, but it's worth learning in the same way that it's worth learning how to be responsible for yourself. Dear Taro, you share you want to take care of a baby so bad. Take care of your inner baby then. There's a baby inside you, there always has been. As we grow up, we only add the titles, once baby, then toddler, then child, adolescent, adult. We just add on to the titles. But even an adult loves being taken care of as a baby, or loves being like a child sometimes. Isn't that true? If no one's looking, maybe someone babies us. We all like it a little bit, don't lie. Even the most masculine, hardworking men who have a girlfriend, you know, when their partner kisses them on the forehead, says, "I love you so much," at least somewhere inside they go, hee. Like those memes that you see posted when the girlfriend's recording the guy and they don't know it, and they're being so lovey-dovey. "Thank you. I love you so much, baby." And then they see the camera and it's, "Oh, wait, I was just joking, you know. I'm a man." We all love that. There's no shame in it. So take care of your inner baby. And I love the wisdom that Dear G is sharing with Annika. Thank you, Dear G. You are such a blessed addition to the Sangha. Hello, dear Isaac. Oh, you have stayed up too late indeed. That is how long I stayed up last night too. I got to bed around 6 in the morning, I think, trying to figure out why my Wi-Fi wasn't working. Dear Isaac, you think there might be a delay in the chat or live? I don't think there actually is a big one. I've just been going through all the comments so you don't feel left out one by one. But I know it's a bit of a trade-off. As I attend to all the comments one by one, then I miss you in the present. Maybe I can go back and forth a little bit. Dear Weird Al, you had asked, do I think it can be worthwhile to indulge in substances, or is purity the only path to enlightenment? Consider purity to be a later stage of the same path, and substances to be a very authentic way of getting on the path again. Absolutely. For me, I was not thinking about anything spiritual until I had an experience of an altered mind. It's not necessary for everyone, but for me it was sufficient. And that got me started. But I liken them to what unlocks the door. They're not the path themselves, they're what opens the door for you. And once the door is open, you might giggle to yourself, opening and closing the door again and again and again, which is basically what we do and we engage with them recreationally. Wow, it feels so good to open the door. Let me close it and open it again. That's what we do. Eventually, we have to go, okay, the door is open, now I walk the path. Everything you need is inside. It's an amazing system. Don't disregard your own ability to generate these experiences from within. If you've ever watched Spaceballs, it's a great spin-off movie of Star Wars where the protagonist gets a ring and he believes that the Force, the Schwartz it's called in the movie, is contained in the ring. And when the protagonist has the ring, he can move objects and use all sorts of telekinetic powers. But then the ring gets lost. And he goes, oh no, how am I going to use the Schwartz without the ring? Use the Schwartz, exactly. And then that's when the Yoda equivalent, whose name was Yogurt, it's a great movie, you have to watch it. Yogurt says, Lone Star, the Schwartz was never in the ring. You know, I got that in a cereal box. The ones with the gifts in them. So then Lone Star realizes that the Schwartz is actually in him, and he moves whatever he needs to move. It's in the same way that substances can reconnect us with what's already there. And once we discover that, then we We need a yogurt or a Yoda to remind us that all we have to do is believe in ourselves. And thank you, dear Demili, for your trio of perfumes. And how many ice cream cones did you send? My goodness, many of them. 42, the answer to life, the universe, and everything. If I had 42 ice creams right now, I'd probably be feeling pretty complete in many ways too. Thank you for that, and another pair of roses. Om Bhuvasvaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. Dear Aaron, you ask, what do I think about the idea of the Matrix and its theoretical impact on spirituality? Well, the idea of the Matrix does ultimately come from spirituality. Long before we had the word Matrix, the ancient rishis of India called this world Maya, and it's exactly the same meaning, just without the technological association of a computer. The ancient rishis said, oh, this world, it's just Maya. And fun fact, the word Matrix has similar etymological connections to Matrix, Maya. They both mean mother. If we go back far enough, Matrix just means mother. Anyway, but Matrix and mother, the reason why this universe is associated both with illusoriness and motherhood is to do with the duality between the Divine Mother and the Divine Father. So Maya means Divine Mother, but it also can translate to illusion in the exact same way that the word Matrix can translate to mother, but we use it in terms of an illusory reality that's being simulated, right? So what's with that connection? And how did the ancient ones figure this out? So they understood it in this way. The source of existence is the definition of the masculine, but the ultimate expression of existence is the feminine. That's why we call her Maya, that's why we call her Matrix, that's why we call her Mother Earth, Mother Nature. The feminine is the experienced, the masculine is the experiencer, like spirit and matter. So that's where the feminine comes into play here. But where the illusoriness comes into play has to do with our relationship to the feminine, to the material. If we objectify her, if we start chasing objects in the world for personal gain, for personal pleasure, if we identify with something for us to create in this world as ourselves, for us to call our own, then we are illusioned, we are under an illusion. Because our true self is not an object in the world, but the subject, the spirit, not the body, not the mind. And so the other translation of Maya as illusion is in relation to the fact that we can be illusioned by taking anything in this world as ultimately real. That we see our job or our relationship or our bank account balance or our material possessions or even our body as who we are. And that's the illusion. And so the ancient yogis wanted us to transcend that. They wanted us to go beyond Maya, to understand our true self in spirit, in Brahman. That tradition was ultimately from the Vedas, from the earliest revelations in humanity. And there are various philosophical traditions stemming from the Vedas called Vedanta. The most common of which is Advaita Vedanta, non-dual Vedanta. And recently, in the last 100 years, you might say, is 100 years recent? Well, it is on Vedic timescales, which go back thousands of years. In the last 100 years, there's been a new movement called Neo-Advaita, which is, in most people's scholarly opinions, a misinterpretation of Advaita Vedanta. It's from Neo-Advaita that we get the idea that the world isn't real, or it's a simulation, or it's an illusion. Only in the last 100 years or so, people started forgetting what Maya really means. That Maya is not absolutely unreal. It's only relatively unreal. And its illusoriness is not as it is, but in our relationship to it. The yogis, the ancient rishis were very clear that the world definitely exists. There's no doubt about that. This universe is the ultimate expression of the divine. But it is not you. You are not the world. You are not a part of anything physical. You are their source, their originator. Your essential nature is beyond it. So that is the relationship between simulation theory and spirituality. Thank you, dear John Simon, for your heart, me and Gigi. Om Ganganapataye Namah. Merry Christmas, dear. Oh, sorry, I missed mystic mushrooms. My hair is growing every day a little bit. Maruk, you had asked how you combine determinism with free will. Very easy. The body does not have free will. The mind does not have free will, but the consciousness does. And your free will is only in your identity, who you choose to be. That is your free will. And who you choose to be sets the mind and body in motion. It determines what the mind and body does, but it's limited by the conditions of the world. The world gives us the conditions. The state of the world is what determines how our choice and identity proceeds, but ultimately we get to choose how we identify. And I'm not talking about a personal identity. I'm talking about at the level of consciousness, what you understand yourself to be. Are you a body? Are you a mind? Or are you something else? Whatever you understand yourself to be ontologically, that is our highest free will as described in the Vedas. Thank you, dear Hybrid Jen, for your 10 TGIFs. Om Tam Namaschandraya. Dear Weird Owl, you wonder about Earth's origin story. Do I believe the Anunnaki created humans? I think the science is pretty understandable for me, that our world collapsed from the planetary nebula left over from a previous supernova, and it had all the right materials for life. We started with very simple oil droplets that have just water separated with an oil membrane, and then a simple RNA molecule helps trigger the division of that and the accumulation of other RNA molecules, and then you have a self-replicating cell, abiogenesis, and then from that more and more components of the cell evolve, natural selection, and the RNA joins together to make DNA, and then that DNA interacts with other RNA, producing various cellular processes in the ribosomes and enzymes, messenger RNAs, all sorts of fancy stuff happens, and then eventually that cell gains a nucleus, and that nucleus gains a mitochondria or a chloroplast, and more complex life evolves and works together. But I think there's a lot of symbolism in the stories. The ancient ones were very knowledgeable, and I really do believe they were connected with divine revelation, but they didn't have the same vocabulary that we have today. Obviously, language evolves, and the only way for them to put down these divine visions that they have is to put it as they see, in terms of visualizations, that we can visualize Earth being formed, separated from the waters above, and humanity descending from the stars. But to me, if we stop at the literal interpretation, then we really lose out on a most beautiful realization that the metaphor of us coming from above is to remind us of our true nature as not from this world, but from the source. Just as how we refer to heavens as above and the higher self. But you can't actually see any heaven up there. You can't see any self up there that's standing above you, that is your higher self. It's a metaphor for another dimension of life, an inner dimension. The higher self is not literally up there, but up in here. When we're looking from our point of view, we see the world before us, and above that, so to speak, is the consciousness from which this expression arises. Follow the path inward, and you will find the source of life, rather than literally in the direction perpendicular to the surface of our planet Earth, and understand that the ancient ones spoke in metaphor. They're poets, beautiful poets. And thank you, dear Starlight Wow, for your flowers. Om Kham Jahnavyai Namah. And dear Jade, thank you for your 10-finger hearts, and your septet of them, and your quintet of tiny tinies. Yippee! Your rosa, and your quintet of roses. Radhe, Radhe. And dear Hybrid Jen, thank you for your stinging bee. Om Namaste Tiryai. Dear Megan, you ask, How do y'all not have anxiety? Oh, I do. In fact, I used to have anxiety, which was so severe it would send me to the hospital. And there's not much they did, unfortunately. There's not much they could do. But there's ways in which you can learn to befriend your anxiety, and then it becomes not an enemy, but actually a lovely part of your experience. You can alchemize anxiety into pure excitement and energy, transforming it. Anxiety is so close to bliss. So close. You just have to rearrange it a little bit, and then it turns into something wonderful. Thank you, dear Golai, for your rose. Hare Krishna. So how did you find yourself, you ask? I gave up looking. At some level. And I never stopped looking at another level. And the truth is, you can't find yourself. That's kind of the catch. Is that anxiety is the understanding that you can't find any ground. There's nothing to be grounded in. But peace is the realization that you are groundless. If you want to be anxious, try to ground yourself. But if you want to be peaceful, give up trying to ground yourself in anything, and you will be free. So you just don't look for yourself. No, you do continue looking for yourself. My apologies. But you understand that you'll never find yourself. The quest is eternal. It never ends. And you make peace with that. That there's nothing to find that'll complete your understanding. There's always more understanding. It's a beautiful paradox. Indeed. The healing journey is lined with them. That's the thing. You have to allow yourself to be a contradiction. It's actually something that's been proven by a logician named Kurt Gödel. He proved that in any fully fledged logical system, there's always a trade-off between consistency and completion. Consistency means that your answers are always the same. Completion means you have the answers to everything. This great philosopher, mathematician, logician, Kurt Gödel, he was able to prove with logic that you can never be fully consistent or fully complete at the same time. You have to choose. Do you want to live a consistent life or a complete life? This, I'm adapting it to the life we live. He was pursuing it purely logically, but I think the same thing holds for us too. Mathematicians tend to prefer consistency. They say, it's okay if I don't have the answers to everything. As long as the answers are consistent for the things we do have answers for, then that's enough to make sense of the world. But maybe you can try doing the reverse. Allow yourself to be a contradiction, and then you will be complete. Hello, dear Stevie G. Thank you, dear Starlight Wow, for your tiny. Yippee! Dear Joe, you wondered if I play any instruments. This body cannot play any, but this body is an instrument of the divine. All of our bodies are. Dear May, can you share? I'm so full of light. You feel heavy and tired when you're alone, but around other people you feel yourself. Sounds like a wonderful thing that you have people that you're connected with. You just have to connect with yourself. And what a paradox. We were just saying how that's impossible. But it's actually not. To add another layer to the paradox, here's the thing. You will never find yourself. That saying is true, but it's also a shorthand for a longer truth. You will never find yourself in full, but you will continue to find pieces of yourself that add to the fullness that you already are. The difference is in shifting your identity from something that you have to be in all its completion to being a process of completion. You shift from trying to be anyone in particular to allowing yourself to be as you are becoming now. Just like the reason you listen to music is not to get to the end of the song, as Alan Watts would say. The purpose of listening to music is not to reach the end of the song. That would be funny. If that were the case, then you'd listen as fast as you can. You'd turn up the speed on all your music and you'd listen at 10 times speed. And you go, finally, I finished that song. How funny that would be. Fortunately, that's not the purpose of music. Music is a process that you enjoy. You enjoy how long it takes. In fact, the longer your favorite song lasts, the happier you are. Make your life something like that. That your quest to understand yourself is like music. Listen to the music. Enjoy the journey. The most wonderful thing to be is exactly what you are becoming now. All of that change. Be a part of the change. Don't wait for the end of it. When we say that the seeker is the sought, ultimately we are looking for the one who is looking. If we can establish ourselves, therefore, in that eternal pursuit, then in an out-of-the-box way, you have found yourself as the one that continues to look for yourself. Welcome, dear Michelle. You're right, maybe it's not that far-fetched in today's fast-paced society. All the latest hits will be the ones that play the fastest. Of course, dear Megan. And again, if what I said doesn't make sense, that's part of the journey too. Because what I said will never make full sense. I don't even make full sense of it. But at this moment, I know enough to trust that It's all about the journey rather than the destination. And I'm right smack dab right in the middle of the journey, just as you are, and we are in the same boat together. There's always something more to understand. Oh, welcome back, dear Jay Leslie. Nice to see you too. Dear Stevie G, you share, if I can show you how to view life like how you view music, that would be so nice. Maybe we can draw parallels between verses and the choruses and the bridges, the melodies, the bass line, the chord progression. When you have new chapters in your life, that's like changing keys. You go from D sharp minor to, I don't know, A major. It feels different all of a sudden, but then you slowly get used to it and you find the rhythm again. The rhythm of life is your routines, making sure that you have a consistent sadhana, spiritual practice. The melody of life is the story you tell yourself. And all the different things that you experience are each note. Sometimes the notes are in dissonance with each other, sometimes they're in harmony. The meter, the time signature is the cycles of day and night and the seasons. Good evening, dear Kitty Fondue. Dear Valley Wings, you ask, you always confuse the onset of mania with nirvana. What are my thoughts? I'm sorry to hear that, dear Valley Wings. I think I can relate in some ways too. There have been times in my life where I felt, I'm enlightened. But the simple solution to that is to understand that no enlightened being would ever identify with their enlightenment. Enlightenment comes with humility, and ironically, that means the most enlightened people are the ones that still feel like they have a long way to go. The true masters are the ones that consider themselves as students, right? So if part of you starts to feel more enlightened, must mean you're no longer a student. But if you're no longer a student, then that means part of us feels like we have nothing more left to learn. But if there's nothing more left to learn, then how can we continue to remain open to new understanding? Therefore, it is imperative that we always choose to believe that there's more for us to do. Not in a begrudging way, always more to do, but in an inspired way that the journey continues. Thank you, dear Jay Leslie. And you are hanging out with me a little bit. Hello, dear Majesty. The mystery is ever forward. Dear Valley Wings, you ask, do I think it's possible that there will be a collective awakening on Earth? Yes and no. Yes, because we're already in the middle of one. But no, in the sense that there will always be more awakening. There will always be more ignorance to dissolve with the light of knowledge, because knowledge is infinite, which means there's always one more thing to apply that knowledge to. And that's okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I accidentally just disconnected my phone as I was turning off the alarm. I use my phone connected with my computer. There. I think it's back. Gotta zoom back in. There's always more awakening. Think of the problems in the world not as a sign of darkness, but a sign of light. Because as we ascend, the harder problems we have to deal with in the world. Just like when you're playing a video game, you know that you're getting higher in the levels when the levels start getting harder. We are in some of the hardest times worldwide because we've ascended so high in the collective consciousness. And as we continue to ascend, our challenges will increase too. You know when you're not getting higher in the levels, when there aren't any more challenges, right? If you reach a place that you keep playing the same level over and over again and all is well, then you're not increasing in your levels. It seems like we're at the boss level, right? Or maybe the mini boss. And then we discover that there's another boss after that. And then the next sequel to the video game comes out and there's an even harder boss after that. Just keeps on increasing. Good night, dear Myrna. Dear Stevie G, you ask, would it be possible for everyone in the world to be at least a bit enlightened and growing? Of course, and we all are. Because enlightenment is not a quality that changes, it's our true self. The true being within us all is enlightened. But at the level of body and mind, we are all growing. And we grow at the rate in which we choose to. If we allow ourselves to heal and grow and learn, then we grow faster. But we are all moving forward together. Some of us just a little slower, and that's okay. They're at a rough patch in their journey, their video game. You know, some levels are just really hard for some, and other people just get them just like that. It's unique to us all. We all have different experiences. That's okay. Thank you, dear Jamili, for the rose and team cheers you had sent. Hare Krishna. Dear Annika, you have a deep question. How do I deal with existential dread? With existential celebration, of course. Celebrate life. There's nothing so serious about it that you have to worry yourself to death over. Be goofy. Celebrate the little things. There's a ladybug on a blade of grass. Woohoo! What does it mean that there is a blade of grass? How has it come to be over billions of years in evolution? And how did the chloroplast of the cells become a part of it? And how does it know to convert the electromagnetic energy of the sun into usable energy? And what is its long-term goal? Does life as a whole understand? And does the ladybug know what it's doing with its life? And does it know that I'm a conscious being looking at it? Don't do that. Do you have enough awareness to recognize the beauty of a ladybug on a blade of grass? Then celebrate that. Do you have to know the cosmological origins of the blade of grass and the ladybug and their theological relationship to the universe and the way in which you pursue ontology to come to this understanding? No. This universe is amazing, and you don't have to understand it to be a part of it. All you really have to know is, are you capable of kindness? Are you capable of reflecting on your actions and growing from them? Are you capable of noticing when someone's having a hard day and maybe offering a helping hand? Trust me when I say that that's all you need to go as far as you want in the spiritual path, and you will have a most meaningful and most lovely life just paying attention to those simple things. You don't have to understand things at any complicated level. Simplify it. It is a weird thing, I agree, being human. It makes no sense that there is consciousness and how a universe exists at all. But guess what? You don't have to. You're allowed to be here, regardless. Thank you, dear Jay Lastly, for your pair of finger hearts, and love you. Om Namah Parashaktiyai Namah. Dear Jasley, dear Jay Lastly, you had asked, what do we do with lack of? We fill that space, and we understand a lack as not an absence, but an invitation that will be filled in just the right time, with patience. Dear little black muse, you ask, Dear Yam, how do you discern if an action will result in a waste of energy? It will never be a waste of energy, because every experience can be something that you can use to learn. You can learn something new about yourself. You might end up discovering maybe some pain in the process, but now you know that here's where boundaries should be set. Here's how you could do things differently going forward. No matter what you experience, even if it's uncomfortable, it's a useful experience. Hello, dear Hermetic Vibrations. You like when I get hyper, dear Hybrid Jen? Rajas. Dear Stevie G. You notice asking questions like that actually brings out bliss and peace. Exactly. When we ask ourselves, how can I make the world just a little better place? How can I put a smile on people's faces? How can I take care of this body, this mind? What's something kind I can do for myself? Is there any boundary I could help ensure my role for other people with? These things immediately bring out actionable decisions that establish us in peace. It's so funny because we kind of expect the highest spiritual truths to be like prophetic grand explanations of the universe at a quantum level that talk about multiverses and timelines and parallel realities, and how the ancient overlords of the eons before time came together. And you know, I feel like a part of us is waiting for an answer like that. That, we'll have great peace when we come to understand our cosmic significance. But to tell you the complete truth, the greatest peace I've ever felt is just from being kind, seeking love, making the most out of my day, having a nice cup of tea. And I think the ancient yogis, the rishis, they spoke similarly. They perhaps, they drew us closer with all of their phantasmagoric terminology, and then the ultimate lessons are just be kind. In fact, there's one of the most powerful stories ever, the Ashtavakra Gita. King Janaka had asked the great sage Ashtavakra, how is knowledge to be achieved, detachment acquired, and ultimate liberation attained? And Ashtavakra, one of the wisest people who ever lived, simply responded, to be free, shun the experiences of the senses for personal pleasure like poison, and turn your attention to kindness, forgiveness, sincerity, truth, and love. And I just love how simple that is. Dear Stevie G, you're wondering what last night's meditation was. It was a meditation on gratitude. Good night, dear Annika, and good luck with your work in the new kitchen. I trust that if you believe in yourself, you'll know just what to do to find your place there or wherever you're needed in this universe. And I love that, dear G. When we really see how amazing life is, how amazing life it is, we are lucky to just be part of the experiences. Absolutely. And we've got some Sanskrit from Kelly the Lamb. Hello. I am na krida asti mula mutas satyam asti vayam cha tismi tasmin saha sambadhaha asmaha tebhyaha utpadyante premna sarvam asti. Beautiful. I recognize, of course, many words like I am, which means I am, na, not, asti, which I think is the verb to be in some conjugation, and cha, and, but you'll have to tell me what this means, dear Kelly. But I always love seeing Sanskrit. Hello, dear Poppy. Dear Zoe, you shared, today you looked at your dog and said, you don't ponder the contents of your own mind like I do. That's because your dog knows what's up. It's so funny. Us humans, some of us, we put ourselves so high above animals because we have the ability to intellectualize. But animals are working at an even higher vibration than we are. They know that the intellect can only lead one so far, but beyond that, love takes you the rest of the way. That's right, dear Myrna. up for what is right feels good, as long as we're making sure to balance that with taking care of ourselves too. Dear Poppy, do I remember you? I remember having you here, yes. Much love to you, dear Jessie. Nice to have you back, dear Mikey. How have you been? Dear user 308, you ask, is Sanskrit always so pleasant sounding? Well, I'm biased. I have fallen in love with the language, and so there is no Sanskrit that happens to my ears that I do not lose myself in bliss. Oh, thank you for reminding me, dear G, of the question of the day. My question of the day is, what is a healthy thing to do if seemingly surrounded by negativity? You've been good, Mikey. I'm happy to hear that. I've been good too. Thank you for asking. Part of what makes Sanskrit so beautiful is that it balances the sounds from all parts of the mouth. That there isn't a heavy reliance on back of the mouth sounds or front of the mouth sounds. That it flows from back of the mouth to the front. And the breath is a very important element, and there's a rhythm to Sanskrit naturally. In fact, in proper Sanskrit speech, you actually sing it to the other person. Almost every Sanskrit text ever is a song. It's just naturally a musical language, a poem. All of the scriptures written in Sanskrit are songs that have melodies. Mind you, they're not super elaborate melodies, but absolutely, they are poems, they are songs. Om Bhurvasvaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. Om Haum Jum Sa Om Bhurvasvaha Om Dryambagam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshiya Mamritat. Om Swaha Bhuvaha Bhuhu Om Saha Jum Ham Om. Om Namah Karlim Ambitame Shurin Naditame Harindevitame Aim Sarasvatyai Swaha. All of those are taken from the Rig Veda. Alright, on to some wonderful answers of the day. Oh, dear Sandy, hello. How are you? I forgot you were in my room. Hi. Hello. Just a little guy, huh? You want to come say hi to the people on the internet? Hi. Been napping here? Hello, Mr. Beans. Hello, Mr. Beans. Sandy Beans, mystical kitty. You're still waking up, aren't you? Feeling gloopy? Yeah. You look tired still. Do you know what planet you're on? No, you're just happy to be here, aren't you? Everyone loves you. Did you know that, Sandy? So many hundreds of people love you. Yeah, people you've never met. But they see you right now. Well, you're probably hungry. Oh, I'm happy your child's cat saw Sandy. Dear Jen. Alright, sorry, I did cut you all off when I had asked my question of the day. Let me scroll back up. Dear little black muse, you share. You had to drop 3 friends last week, so this is definitely another synchronicity. Sometimes the people that call themselves our friends are people we need to take some space with or from. Dear Myrna, you've been enjoying the sounds of the Nirvana Shatakam these days. It's a beautiful Shatakam. Alright, dear Stevie G, you share. Focus on breath, breathing, and say positive affirmations with maybe prayers and going to the divine within. Finding something that brings out your positivity can also help. Yeah, I love those answers. Dear Valley, you share. When surrounded with negativity, it's important to check whether we are the problem ourselves. Sometimes the things around us can reflect the things inside. It's good to check, is the negativity inside? Escape, shares Talita. That can be difficult. But I agree, give some space for some of those things. Sometimes our lesson is to learn where to set boundaries and where to conduct our energies. Dear Hannon, you share, if we are seemingly surrounded by negativity, you think it's smart to go to the beach and cleanse. I like that, or a large body of water. Very grounding. I'm happy you enjoy the cat cameos. Spread positivity, shares Michelle. Meditation and spiritual ritual, shares Scott. And hello, dear Zachary. And Ragnhildur, you share, pray or chant in our minds. That's one of my favorites. And Hybrid Jen, you share, lay on the ground or sit, inside or outside. Yeah, we're always so elevated from the ground, hey? In our societies in the West. If you go around the world, a lot of cultures spend a lot more time on the ground than we do. And a lot of the same cultures, the people seem much more grounded than we are emotionally as well. I like the connection. Dear Max, you share. A healthy thing to do would be to not judge the constant motion of skill and solid defensive ability. Everything has space and motion. We need truth and unity, then badminton, of course. Thank you, dear Demili, for the TikTok you had sent earlier. Vastudevadaya Namaha. I like these answers a lot, everyone. I sense a natural lull, and I'm satisfied pausing our exploration there for now. Tom, terrific. You try to be the light in a dark room. I love that. Yeah. I was thinking when writing this question, when we're surrounded by negativity, be positive. Let that negativity bring out the best in you. Just like how negative charge attracts positive charge, let that positive charge be attracted from you, to be brought out to the surface. And G, you share, turn on some music and dance out the energy. That's fun. I like that. Well, I think this is a good time to think about ending this live stream. So we'll transition to our final segment, Nididhyāsana. We didn't have a show and tell today because I've saved it for the end. And this will also be kind of a meditation, more of Nididhyāsana in general. Here we have made it into our Manana section. But may you all be the light. Embrace the power of positivity. Surface your best. All right. So let me tell you a little bit about how we're going to end our live stream with a show and tell. In general, I like to keep the show and tells under 15 minutes, but Sky Guardian had asked so kindly if we could extend that for a friend of his named Paul, who wanted to share something really important that changed in their life in a video that they made, and it's about 30 minutes long, and it's titled Paul's Miserable Christmas in New York City, which already sounds like it's going to be a banger. Paul had also sent in a little blurb, which is that Sky Guardian had requested he share it, and Paul apologizes that it's 30 minutes long. Very kind. Do with it what you will. I was sharing my story in hopes that people don't feel as lonely this holiday season. And if people want to find me, they can search for Paul Yu on YouTube. That's U-Y-U. That's funny to say. U-Y-U. The letters. Well, the word you, Y-O-U, but the name is spelled Y-U. Anyway, who's on first? Let me turn down the Christmas music and bring up this show and tell from Dear Paul. And this will be the first time that I see it too, so I very much look forward to watching this with you and you.
Christmas or any holidays are a tough time for a lot of people, especially for those who are alone. If you are lucky like me to have family or someone special to celebrate it with, it can be a joyful time, but it can also be a miserable, lonely time to those who don't have that this Christmas. It's cheesy to say you're not alone, you are loved. And many people would say that's just not true. But it is true that you are not alone in feeling what you are feeling. You are one of millions sharing a similar lonely experience this holiday. And at this point, that's the end of my script. And I'm going to share with you a lonely Christmas that I had when I was living in New York City back in 2013. And while I do that,
11 years
I'm going
ago.
to eat some just freshly baked sweet potatoes from California, although I'm
He's
living
eating
in
me.
Toronto, Canada. They were air fried, so they're nice and warm. And
No,
I'll
you
tell you
don't
my
eat
story
me.
of some of the darkest times in my 20s. So the reason I was in New York City back in 2013 was because I was doing a co-op for my university, which is an internship.
I think,
And, oh, this is really sweet. Nice.
I'm glad it's very sweet. 1 second. I am just going to turn up the Christmas music. I think I had turned it down just in case there was any, but I think it'll still work. Just before he gets started with the story, as he's eating a yam. Well, a sweet potato. Anyway. Oh, I forgot to turn the Christmas music on. I went over. I just closed it. There we are. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Onwards.
I got an internship in Brooklyn. And lo and behold, the reason I applied to that so far away, well, an hour flight away from home, is I have an uncle who lives in Brooklyn. And he said I could stay with him during my whole 4-month period of co-op. And I got the job. So September of 2013, I flew to New York City. And initially I was having a blast.
That yam looks so good.
God, this is so good. I usually don't eat past 6 p.m. because it's bad to eat right before you sleep or 3 hours before you sleep. Right now it's 8:32 p.m. and it just doesn't taste the same when it's cold, you know? So I am having a guilty pleasure tonight. Probably not gonna get as good quality of sleep because of the food, but let me get back to my story. So when I was initially in New York City back in September of 2013, I was busy doing everything that I could do in New York City because there's so much to do, right? So I remember I'm a big tennis fan. I bought tickets to the US Open semifinals. I remember the ticket price was like $250 for a seat way, way back in the stadium. And the players who were Djokovic and Yuzny for that match, it was so tiny. It looked like the court was about this size to my eyes because I was that far away. But I digress. I watched Stomp again, which I watched Stomp back in Korea. It's just for those of you who don't know Stomp, it's a performance where you make beats and rhythms using everyday objects like broomsticks and even lighters. That was a super cool experience because it was visual too.
Yeah, they came to my school when I was younger.
Music.
I remember seeing them too.
Just a beat. It was incredible. And I was really enjoying my time with fellow university students who came from my Waterloo University and were all in New York City together, working for different companies. We would meet up. We would have these group gatherings. And they even celebrated my birthday with me, because my birthday is in September. And I was like, wow, I am so blessed. I'm so lucky to be having such a great time in New York City. But little did I know that would all turn around in about a month or two. So I remember the moment that this happened, where something shifted inside me. I was really enjoying my time, spending time with my uncle in New York City. He's just a cool, chill dude, and so worldly and knowledgeable about a lot of things. Really easy to have just great conversations with. And we were driving back from grocery shopping on the weekend, getting our haircut together at Queens, and we were having a conversation about God, and it was, at one point he said, if you are an atheist, then it's all the more amazing that this world exists, because that means there was no creator and this happened all of its own accord. So to an atheist, more than any religious person, this world is that much more incredible and amazing that anything like this exists. And at that point, it's weird to say, but it felt like I had an inner person that was on a cliff, and I just fell off the cliff. And I got a sinking feeling. And from then on, my days got very dark. And that won't make any sense to you, why that would happen. And I don't even know exactly why. Maybe to give you a bit more backstory, a year before going to New York City, I had my first manic episode, which is what happens. I was diagnosed with bipolar type 1 in 2012 when I was 21 years old. And during that severe manic episode, psychosis, where you're believing things that are not true, I had delusions about God and being some fifth prophet. And I thought I got rid of all those delusions. And maybe I did for the most part, but subconsciously, I was clinging on to something, that I was somewhat special and had some kind of special role to play in this life of mine. It wasn't at the forefront of my belief, but maybe I was still holding on to the significance that I have some special destiny that'll unfold for the rest of my life. And that's my guess. I don't even know for sure if that's why I felt like I was falling off a cliff. But I was thinking, I just got set with this dread. And with that dread, that maybe there is no God to... Everything was a delusion, and I'm just crazy, and I'm just making everything up. When I got that feeling of, okay, maybe there is no God that I was still somewhat subconsciously believing into at the time. With that realization, I got this dread of a future where I'm living all alone, and I am lonely and miserable old man with nobody, and I'll just be a lonely old miserable man for the rest of my life. And I couldn't shake this future projection dread feeling. I couldn't shake it off. To me, over the coming days and weeks and even months, it became so certain to me that I was going to live a lonely, miserable old man's life. And there was nothing I could do to stop it. So, as I said, it's difficult to explain why that sentence from my uncle got me to that place. It probably had, as I said, something to do with my bipolar delusions that were subconscious. But I don't even know, that's just my guess. So, ever since that moment, I think it was in October or November, it was a 4-month period that I was going to stay in New York. So I was going to head back to Toronto at end of December or early January. And I just got worse and worse and worse as the days went on. So initially, I was trying to shake it off. I was like, you know, I didn't even acknowledge that I felt that way. I was like, everything's fine. I'm so lucky at this point. What am I complaining about? I have everything going for me. I'm young. I'm doing a co-op in New York City. How many people get to do that and live with their cool uncle and not pay rent? Like, I'm living a dream life right now. Why am I getting depressed every day? And so at the beginning, I was faking it. I was faking cheerful. I was faking being happy around people. And it wasn't working. The dread just kept getting bigger and bigger. I no longer wanted to do anything. I didn't want to go to all these events. I didn't want to look up what to do next. I started coming home, and I started getting back pain at that time too. It was really bad to the point where it was so painful to sit down, and the only thing I could do was really lie down to try and minimize the back pain, but I would still feel back pain while I was lying down. I don't even know what caused that back pain, but I would just come home. It's dark outside. I would eat something, maybe some vegetables that I whipped up for myself. Just put it in a pan with some oil.
This is a video. Some of you are thinking this is live. This is a video. Just that clarifying.
Salt and pepper. Sometimes not even that. Sometimes I just have like probably some pantry food, like a can of almonds or something. I would just come home after work and lie down on a mat where I was sleeping upstairs and just lay there. And then my uncle would come home from his work and I'd just say, "Oh, hello, uncle." And I'd just say, "Oh, I just feel back pain, so I'm lying down," which was true, but it was also because I was depressed. And so I would just lay down all evening, feeling miserable. And I started wishing that I would not wake up tomorrow morning, that I would just fall asleep and stay asleep and dead forever. And at this point, the faking it was wearing off and I couldn't really fake it anymore. I was trying to fake it, but I was failing at faking it at this point when weeks passed. And so even people started noticing it. My uncle obviously noticed it. He was like, if you're feeling down, you got to focus on the small things that you can control. Get sunlight. Sunlight directly has an impact on your mood. Always walk as much as possible when you can during breaks to get some sunlight. Get some sunlight while you're at work during lunchtime. So I started going walks during lunch, just a short walk to get a bit of sun on my skin. Even one of my coworkers, when we were having like I forget if it was at a bar or something after work. He was like, I noticed you were very cheerful when you first arrived, and then at some point you just started losing some energy, and I was wondering if you're okay. And I didn't know even how to articulate what I was feeling. So I just said, oh, I just feel this dread of I don't know what to do after I graduate. And then he gave a standard good answer of like, oh, you don't have to know what you're going to do now. Things will unfold and you'll figure things out. Something like that. But that wasn't even the main issue. It wasn't that I didn't know what I was going to do after I graduate. It was that I felt like I was trapped and going to have a miserable life no matter what I did. And this dread was so certain that I was never going to escape this horrible life unless I... And so... Oh, that'll probably be censored by... That'll probably be censored. Unalive myself. Unless I unalive myself. I'm trying to not get it censored. So I never got to a suicidal point, but I was wishing that I was. I guess I was wishing that I was not alive anymore. So I stopped spending that much time with other people going to... Well, I mean, at the same time, there were still moments where I was still invited to things sometimes. And, like, I was invited to the Daily Show with Jon Stewart. My coworker had extra tickets. And he's like, yo, someone couldn't make it. Do you want to come to the Daily Show with Jon Stewart? And I used to watch him at the time. I still do sometimes these days. And so I was like, oh yeah, I'd love to go. And I remember I went to the Daily Show, the live, performance, or I don't know if it's called performance, but it's a comedy news show, for those of you who don't know what the Daily Show is, in front of a live audience. And everyone was laughing and having a good time with all the jokes. And I was fake laughing, but I was just miserable on the inside and couldn't enjoy any of the jokes. Even though I was hearing it, it just wasn't funny to me because it didn't make a difference to how I felt. So I got addicted to eating at this point. I started walking around the city during my free time, during my weekends, by myself, alone, the streets of New York, and if I saw anything that I wanted to eat, I would go in and buy it and try a small piece of it or whatever, hopefully something small, because I wanted to just like binge eat a lot of different stuff. When I was eating food and I could taste something in my mouth, that was the only thing that kind of distracted me from my horrible, dreadful feeling of an inevitable, miserable future. So I started gaining weight. And it was just a downward spiral. The walking around didn't help. I was just walking around. I remember just some weekends I would walk around from morning or afternoon all the way till evening after the sunset. And I just see all these people around me having a good time, usually with people, and they're laughing, and there are these Christmas markets popping up everywhere, and all this cheerful music, and I just felt so dreadful in the midst of all that. And so my co-op ended. It was December. It was the Christmas holidays. And my mom and sister drove from Toronto, Canada to New York City to pick me up. And even after not seeing them for like 4 months, I didn't feel that much joy reuniting with them.
He's got another one.
I was just in such a depressed state when I met them. Even eating dim sum on Christmas Day with my mom, my uncle, my sister. I was smiling for the photos and all that, but I was just totally miserable inside. Man, I'm dragging the story on so long. It's 20 minutes in already. So what was the conclusion? What happened? Because clearly I'm not depressed right now. 11 years later.
How can you be?
There was a lot that happened in that time, but to conclude the arc of my depressive Christmas holidays, I came back to Toronto after the end of co-op. I was home again, and I just lay in bed, depressed, all day. Every day. And it was... I hopped on another call with my uncle who was back in New York and did a video call or a voice call, I can't remember, but he said, your physical health has a direct impact on your mental health. So focus on what you can control by taking care of your physical health. So again, he said, go outside. I don't care if you run or walk, but get outside every single day. Get sunlight. Eat healthy, because what you eat directly affects your mood. If you eat like shit, you'll feel like shit. So eat healthy food. And I talked to one of my university friends. And he said, it's actually a brother of my closest friend at that time in university. And I told him my biggest fear of, I have this fear that I'm going to be a miserable old lonely man. And he said, you don't know that. He said, you think that fear is so guaranteed that it's inevitable, but you really don't know that. And there are things you can do along the way to prevent that from happening. So don't worry about the distant future and focus on just today, and just think, today, what can I do to make myself better than I was yesterday? And just focus on today. Don't think about the future, because you don't know what's going to happen. All you can do is focus on what you're going to do today. So I started thinking, okay, I'll try not to think about the future. Maybe he's right. Maybe I won't be lonely, although it seems like I will be. And I started taking it day by day. I started going for walks. Even after I came back, I would get sunlight, step outside, no matter how cold it was. And lo and behold, it took months, but I started feeling a bit better. And then a few months later, in April, I went manic because of my bipolar type 1. I was off my medication when I was forgetting to take them while I was on a Korea-Japan trip. At that time, it wasn't intentional to get off medication. It was just, I forgot to take it multiple days in a row. And usually I don't get triggered that fast into mania, but I guess environment also triggers mania. So maybe all the new environment and being in such a different place, all that stimulation had a trigger effect. So within a few weeks, I went from normal to severely manic again and severely mentally ill. And so that was a really bad rest of the year until I got out of the psych ward and hospital in November. That was like 6 months in and out of the psych ward. I will tell you a silver lining though, even during that horrible, hellish, miserable time of my mania. I met a friend at the outpatient program. I call him John, and he also was diagnosed with bipolar type 1, and we just bonded, and he is still a friend to this day, 11 years later. Well, at the time it was 2014, so exactly 10 years later. So we've been friends for 10 years now. I'm just so blessed to have a friend like that in my life. So you never know when it's not like there's a silver lining for every tragic event, but I got a lifelong friend from that horrible time of mania in 2014. So in a way, I'm glad that I went through all that. And now I believe a completely different set of beliefs from 10 years ago. Now I believe everything is turning out as it should. That I ought to say, thanks for everything. I have no complaint whatsoever. Whenever something good happens or whenever something bad happens, I repeat that to myself. Thanks for everything. I have no complaint whatsoever. And that your world takes care of you. I repeat that to myself again whenever something good happens or bad happens. I affirm to myself, your world takes care of you. And I believe these beliefs, these mantras, these affirmations that I say to myself, that I got from books, are not necessarily a universal truth, but they're a practical truth, in that the more you affirm those beliefs, the more you move in a positive direction.
Sorry for the buffering. Unexpected error occurred. Sorry about that, everyone. Let me see what I can do quickly. I know it can be frustrating when that happens, especially for a story which we're
Christmas
so invested
or
in.
any holiday.
There. Let me find my way back to where we were now. Let's see, we were about here?
Not necessarily a universal truth, but they're a practical truth, in that the more you affirm those beliefs, it takes care of you.
There.
I repeat that to myself again whenever something good happens or bad happens. I affirm to myself, your world takes care of you. And I believe these beliefs, these mantras, these affirmations that I say to myself, that I got from books, are not necessarily a universal truth, but they're a practical truth, in that the more you affirm those beliefs, the more you move in a positive direction. So those truths may not seem real, but if you affirm those truths, they become more real than they ever would, than if you didn't say any of that, and you were just in a dreadful, depressed state, and not being grateful, practicing gratitude on a daily basis. So, to wrap it up, 2013, 2014, some of the darkest times in my life. I would have more dark times after that. My 20s was not a good decade. I'm 34 years old now, and my 30s are way better than my 20s. And I'm an unemployed 34-year-old living with my mom, but I am more grateful than I ever have been in my life. It has just been a long journey to get to this point. And I don't know if sharing this story helps in your current state, whether you're not having a good time these holidays or whether you are having a good time. Maybe you feel less alone when I share what I've gone through. Maybe you feel like, okay, things can and do get better, given enough time and effort. Yeah, things like depression, it can take years, maybe even decades, to overcome, but just because you're going through what you're going through now doesn't mean that'll be the permanent state forever and ever until you die. I just wanted to say that one message. And I was wrong. My 22-year-old, 23-year-old self in New York City. Just looking at my 30s, I'm not an old man yet, but the future has been brighter than I ever would have imagined in terms of my mental health, in terms of my happiness. So even if you're lonely, well, maybe that's not how it will be permanently for your entire rest of your future. Man, I was tearing up just now, just getting choked up. I don't even know why. I don't know if it was because of my own experience or because I was imagining all of the people who are lonely and I was feeling empathy. I don't even know why I was tearing up for a second there, but
it happens.
This video is being posted 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Christmas Day, 2024. But maybe this video will find you at a later date. Probably will, because it takes time for the video to pick up views. Maybe it's New Year's. So in that case, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Cheers. By the way, if you can buy and bake some sweet potatoes, especially if they're sweet. These are from California, but got them at a Korean grocery store. So good. It's cooled down now, but oh, it's sweet and it's so good, man. Merry Christmas, everyone. And if you're watching this in the new year, Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, Paul, you. Chug, chug, chug.
Oh. It is 9 p.m. now. Gotta get ready for bed. I hope this video made you feel less lonely if you are feeling lonely at this time. And remember that you're not the only one going through what you're going through. There are other people who feel the similar or same way that you do. So take solace in that, and If it takes watching these kinds of videos to cheer you up, then by all means, watch these kind of videos, and I hope you feel better. And if you're having a good time, then happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Alright, I'll see you in the next video, if you want to see my next video. 1% better every day, baby. Muffin is scared of guests, so he's trying to hide inside here. Poor thing.
Aww, I love Muffin.
Look at Muffin. Poor Muffin. So scared. Mochi is now recovered enough from her knee surgery to go on walks. She's been begging to go outside. She loves the snow. Now she's making tea. Muffin and Ticker liking the new toy.
Thank you for watching / listening, everyone. I love stories like that. I'm so grateful that Sky Guardian pushed Paul to share that with us in the show and tell. And if any of you ever want to share something of your own, I'd love to hear your story. Do check out the submission form in the link tree in the bio. I've had yams, or sweet potatoes, sorry, that look just like that. Accidentally, my mother grew sweet potatoes in the pots that line the driveway of my house, and the vines were called Japanese sweet potato vines, but she didn't think they'd actually grow into sweet potatoes. So when she was cutting off the vines after they had died out and repotting new flowers and whatnot, she discovered that the pots were filled with these Japanese sweet potatoes, and we didn't know what to do with them. I said, I'll eat them, and I did. I ate all of them. It took about a month, but they were my dinner for about like weeks, and they were delicious. I love them, and I think that Paul may have had the same kind. All right. Well, I'm so grateful to have heard that story. There's so many wonderful messages that we can gain from that. How taking care of our mental health is so important, and it can take a long time. It can take years to get to where you want to be, and that's absolutely okay. I love how this video was like a personal diary that was open for everyone to read. That vulnerability is so beautiful, and I can't take any ownership, but as a fellow human being, I'm proud that Paul is sharing his story like that, and I really do hope that it reaches those that need to hear it, that is. I love how he's able to make friends with that person in going through a similar experience as he had. And Guy Guardian wanted me to mention that his video is a testament to karma yoga, which is actually something that Krishna teaches in the Bhagavad Gita. The yoga of action, karma yoga. And it seems like Paul has been his own Arjuna and mastered the art of karma yoga in his journey. And just like he was saying at the beginning, that to an atheist, this world might even be more amazing in the fact that it kind of has come unto itself, through itself. Isn't that even more of a miracle in some sense? I think in the same way, even though Paul perhaps has not quite yet read the Bhagavad Gita or didn't at the time, that it's a miracle that he was able to imbibe the same truths that Krishna told, that we have a duty to do our actions and not to any particular result or reward or to escape some punishment. Just as Paul was worried about being a sad old man, Arjuna was wondering about how he would live the rest of his days, and Krishna gently reminds him, do not worry about the outcome of how you live your life today. Just do your best today and you will be happy. All you have to do is take things one step at a time. The greatest gift is to express yourself, to engage in little acts of selfless service to others and towards this body and mind. And by the law of incremental growth, you will get better. Our mind has a beautiful ability to get better. Krishna also says that the mind is indeed very difficult to guide, to control. And so when Krishna says that, then it really is going to be a long journey, I'm sure, and that's okay. There's nowhere else you need to be other than where you are right now. Namaste. That concludes our Nididhyāsana for tonight. And thank you for being here. This is the end of our Sangha. I'm grateful to be the host. If there's any way in which I can be a more humble host next time, please hold me accountable to that. If I can make this space more inclusive, let me know. This live stream will be posted to my Yamsox Lives YouTube channel, and it'll be up there along with the show and tells and the meditations and the readings in their own playlist in case you find any of that of value. Thank you, dear Valley Wings, who sent a beating heart several minutes ago. Om Brahm Bhairvaya Namo Namah. Dear Hybrid Jen, thank you for your 20 roses. Om Sum Suryaya Namah. Dear Dob Darker, thank you for your heart me. Radhe Radhe. And dear Demili, thank you for your roses, a quartet of them. Om Sadyujatam Prapadyami Sadyujataya Vai Namo Namah. Bhave Bhave Nati Bhave Bhavasvamam Bhavodbhavaya Namah. Thank you to my lovely moderators for helping keep the peace. Thank you, dear Johnny, for your pair of roses. It's very kind of you. Om Kamalir Mahakali Kaye Namah. I echo that, dear G. I trust everyone to have a lovely weekend. Take a gentle walk in the forest if you can. Thank you for reminding me to eat something delicious, dear Michelle. I was going to make a joke, but I'm afraid it might be taken the wrong way. You are all so sweet and delectable. Thank you, dear Michael, for the Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you. May this live stream be an offering to the divinity within you. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamasoma jyotirgamaya mrityurma mritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to the light. Lead us from death to deathlessness. Om. May there be peace in us. May there be peace in our environment. And may there be peace in the forces that act on us. If there's anything that I can attend to after this live, please let me know. My inboxes are open on Instagram, WhatsApp, Telegram, email, also Discord. Paul Yu, I was going to say, the submitter of the show and tell, he's also a member of our Discord, so I assume that if there's any questions you had about his story, if you wanted to get to know him better, you can reach out to him there. If he's free, of course. I leave that up to him, but the space I hold there for that in the Discord if anyone wants to join. Thank you, dear Gina, for your rose. Om Saraswatyai Namah. Thank you, dear Johnny Doe, for another quartet of roses and a single rose. In addition, Hare Krishna. Yeah, I'd be happy to explore that with you next time, dear DJ, or we can talk about it privately or in the Discord server. For now, I must end the live stream, but I'm so grateful to have been the host of this space. May you all have a wonderful rest of your night, evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are in the world. May you have a wonderful rest of your present moment. Namaste.